back here on another edition of Blue White Tailgate Podcast. Andrew Klissa, Mike Gross of the Gross Rational Product, and Frank Bonanni of the York Daily Record. Season 3 of the Blue White Tailgate Podcast. It's going to be a great one. Well, actually, we're already on episode 3 or 4 of season 3. We're just continuing to crank out the episodes. High fives all around. Folks, really appreciate you coming on board. Episodes are really taking off. Viewership steadily growing. We want to appreciate that. Tell your friends about it. Free podcast, some knowledge, some opinion, and we go all over the place. We're going to talk Penn State football. We have Andrew Clay of Black and Gold Nation coming on. He was out at the Combine, so we're going to talk Penn State guys at the Combine. And, of course, the Steelers, are they taking Drew Allar? We are going to pose that question to Andrew Clay. Spent a lot of years in the Penn State media room as well, and he knows a lot about the NFL, covering the Steelers. But we're going to start in Happy Valley, the big story, the big controversy. This might be the biggest story in the nation if certain geopolitical things weren't going on right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
For the Big Ten tournament. And if you want to jump in on this conversation, email the show, BlueWhiteTailgatePawcast, PAWCAST @gmail.com. Huge story, controversy. Cale Sanderson's talking about it like, what am I doing? Or what are they doing? Frank, the seating issues. Are you kidding me? You're outsourcing this? What is this, a call center in India? Are they asking these guys for their car insurance, like car warranties and things? Only 6 top seeds for Penn State, and Levi Haynes, who beat his opponent and undefeated, isn't number 1?
Yeah. Okay, so I get the idea they want to outsource, because before it was taking the coaches forever and you're having coaches figuring out seating over who knows how many hours, right? How they would not test the outsourcing AI system, I don't understand. And then when they get the results, they still publicly release them. Anyway, it's kind of weird. It's a little, I don't know, I guess it's shocking, but I mean, they'll figure it out. I think that's what Cale said. I mean, all of us, including myself, I don't know if I want to say we make too big a deal about it, because this came out early in the week. The coaches, mind you, will get together, and tomorrow some of these seedings will be changed. Okay. Oh. I'm going to guarantee you Levi Haynes will be number 1 in his weight class. This will be fixed. Cale says we will fix this. I don't know. I mean, in a way, yeah, it's weird. Another way, would it really even matter if Levi Haynes is the 2nd seed? Because this goes back to what we're saying about Penn State is unlike any other athletic animal when it comes to wrestling. I'm not sure any of this really means a big deal. I think they'll correct it. That's probably it's embarrassing. I would think. I don't think. Okay, I've never seen it where a guy who beat another guy and has a better record and is number 1 would be seated below him in any sport. Not sure that ever happened when we were picking little league teams in like 1980. Okay, in York County, but
it's almost like this was a government operation and it went through the subcommittee, the secret super subcommittee, and then didn't get a test run in front of the whole committee. And the committee's like, yeah, we're going to change that. So,
Frank, is it something like a strength of schedule argument?
Yeah, some of this AI stuff they feed into it is weighted on who they're wrestling during the season. And I think a lot of it ends up being stuff that the wrestlers can't control. Like Levi Haynes didn't have so-called as good of a wrestling opponent schedule as the guy who's number 1, the guy he beat, right? So all these points go to Christopher Minto because he wrestled so-called better wrestlers. But of course, Levi Haynes has no control over that because some of his matches, he ended up wrestling backups. One, because I think they didn't want to maybe throw their guys to Levi Haynes and get destroyed or injured or whatever else. So, I think they'll fix it, like Cale Sanderson says. I'm still just kind of excited to see what Penn State does on Saturday and Sunday. I've never covered the Big Ten championships before because I haven't been doing this when they've been at Penn State. So I think it'll be pretty cool that the best team in the country gets the league championships at their on their home mats, and it's always still like a warm up in a way, the way Penn State treats it, because they care mostly about the NCAAs, obviously, and that's why if you look at the records, Penn State did not always win the Big Tens. As crazy as it sounds, like they have much more success number-wise in the NCAAs under Cale Sanderson than they do the Big Tens. They've won the last 3, but there is a period before and during COVID where they didn't win every year. I mean, Ohio State won a couple of times in a row. Iowa won. Michigan won. And some of those years, Penn State still won the NCAA. So,
and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, that this has, and I the terminology I'm going to use is not 100% accurate, but just from talking to wrestling coaches is the goal is to have your max energy and to be in max peak condition for nationals. And that's how Penn State has treated it. And there are other schools that you mentioned, like Ohio State in certain years, and Iowa, they've gone all out to make sure to try and win the Big Tens, have guys perform at their best, and are a little bit gassed because nationals is a whole different animal, adding on the extra day that these guys have to be ready for, healthy for, and in peak condition.
Yeah, that's part of Penn State's genius, right? Is the way that Cale and his coaching staff, it's not tapering, I guess, but it's the way that they can kind of build their guys up to be at peak performance. That's part of the reason why we go back to why they don't wrestle like that big national, that new national tournament, the beginning of the year, because they know like workload, they know how to manage guys to get them at their peak at the right time. That's got to be part of this, right? How else do you win 12 of the last 14 national titles team-wise? And now you're at the point where you're not just winning them, you're crushing the field and setting NCAA records. I think the biggest thing will be, will Penn State break its Big Ten championship points record this weekend that they set just last year?
I was just going to say, having said all of this, they're going to win this weekend, right?
Oh, God, yeah, they'll win walking. I mean, the only thing that stops them is if guys get injured. The only way they don't like qualify everybody for nationals is if people get hurt or some weird disqualification thing goes on. And I guess injury is always a factor, a possibility. Like last year, it didn't knock guys out, but like their big heavyweight was hurt through the entire NCAA tournament. So he was not, Greg Kirkfleets was never going to be really, truly an NCAA title finalist because he was wrestling with an injury. Somehow Carter Starace the year before won a title with one leg, basically, on one leg. So that's the only thing that gets them to me.
Bigger controversy, Penn State football opening on the road or Levi Haynes not being a number 1 seed? In the mind of Penn State fans, what is more...
Okay, way more people are invested in Penn State football. Number 2, Penn State can't change the football schedule. They can change Levi Haynes' seating. I think he will be seated first when this is all said and done. So there's a difference.
It was a trick question, Frank. Neither one matters.
Absolutely. Oh, good. Okay, absolutely. Neither one matters. Who cares? Yeah, I don't care about that kind of stuff, really. But
hey, if you can't trust WrestleStats Tournament Seeder Program, what can you trust in this country of America after 250 years?
So true.
I am going to go to the mailbag before we get to Mike Gross talking about basketball. This comes from Joe in Conshohocken. Mike, great job on shutting down Andrew with his comment about a diva head coach. That coach isn't here anymore. He cannot hurt us anymore. Move on. Can we get a mute button for Andrew when he's going off? I mean, I could give you guys that power if you wanted. That's from Joe in Conshohocken. Joe, thanks for the email.
Really don't want it. Let Kalista be Kalista. That's what I say.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Take that, Joe. My co-host sticking up for me. Basketball talk right now. Penn State gets a great win, and it is a great win, over Iowa. And it seems like this has been the formula for a long time at Penn State, with the exception of 4 or 5 years. They always pull off a couple wins in the year. Not this year, they got close, but one win that you would think they're not going to. Iowa is a tournament team and should be a tournament team. They have 20 wins. And they pull it off at the end of the year. It's a little bit frustrating, isn't it, Mike, when you see how the year played out for Penn State basketball?
Yeah, it was their best win of the year. Iowa is going to be a tournament team, as you said. They have 20, almost certainly going to be a tournament team. Maybe if they lost in the first round of the Big Ten tournament badly, they'd be on the bubble. But they got 20 wins. And the frustrating thing for a Penn State fan in this basketball season is their wins are just completely random events. They don't seem to build on anything. And they beat Iowa, and then a couple nights later they lose by 30 to Ohio State, which is not better than Iowa. I mean, that's been the way it's gone this year. They're going to be in the Big Ten tournament because everybody gets in the Big Ten tournament. I would honestly be surprised if they're very long for the Big Ten tournament, and that's going to be the end of this season. I do want to say one thing, though, about a kid, Josh Reed, who's a senior. He had 25 points in the Iowa game, and that kid really has been a good soldier from everything I can tell. He's all in. He's trying. He's focused. He's trying as hard as he can, and he's probably not going to be a pro, but he's had a pretty good senior year in the midst of all this negative stuff that has happened with Penn State basketball.
Mike, I got to ask you, is this the end of Mike Rhodes at Penn State, and should it even be a question at this point?
I don't think it should be a question now, but I guarantee you another year that's even 80% as bad as this one, and it will be a big question. It will be a big question. Now, he got an extension, which I didn't even know this. He actually has a 7-year contract, so he has 2 more years than I thought he did on the deal. And one of the things we've heard over and over again, and I have now heard it from some people who should know this, is that the things that he was promised in terms of spending on the roster, Penn State has not delivered, and they essentially went to Mike Rhodes and told him, you're going to have to suck it up for a couple of years because we got this football stadium to renovate and blah, blah, blah. And maybe that was the source of the extra 2 years tacked on to his contract. So maybe Penn State is sympathetic and understands what we've been talking about. I would say that.
Yeah, and even coming out of the Micah Shrewsbury short run, I'll say, Penn State has to make promises to get coaches to come here. It's the era of college sports that we're in. If you don't make promises,
particularly in this sport,
in this sport, and Mike Rhodes has won everywhere he's been, whether it was on Shaka's staff down at VCU, then to Rice, then back to VCU. He's won at every stop. So
Randolph Macon.
Yes. I forget the Randolph Macon stuff.
There you go.
Because of the VCU assistant stuff. He won in college at Lebanon Valley as a player. So to lure a coach in this era, you have to make promises. And if you're not going to deliver on those promises, nobody in that building is going to be happy. The people who made the promises aren't going to be happy with the results. And the people who went from a basketball school to a school that literally treats basketball at times you would think like the Antichrist with funding and the way it's treated from the administration, they're not going to be happy either. So, because they wouldn't have come here. Penn State administration has to either choose, are you buying in or are you just going to take the TV money? And
at some point, well, you said it. I can't say it any better than that. At some point, Penn State's athletic administration's got to say, it's college basketball. It would be cool to have a good basketball team, and let's get the resources to make that happen.
Other schools could do it. Other schools find a way to make money. Pat Kraft wants to find revenue. Bringing in the bare minimum revenue in basketball is not expanding your revenue base. That's
correct.
That's all I'm saying.
Agreed.
I don't have any wit coming out of basketball. I had some wit for wrestling and always have wit for football. I don't got a lot of wit for that.
Well, yeah,
but
it's pretty.
Before we get to Andrew Clay talking combine, I wanted to propose this question to you guys. Drew Allar is getting a ton of hype. before we bring in Mr. Clay from Black and Gold Nation covering the Steelers. Are you guys shocked with the amount of level of hype? I mean, I saw an Instagram video of Drew Allar out here making it look easy, and it was a 10-yard route. And I'm like, I mean, this is what the NFL Combine is. And I saw the deep ball. I know he throws a high deep ball, but I'm like, oh, man, like all these analysts, and I know they got to fill time and they got to get, retweets and get people talking. I mean, the way they're talking him up is like, this is the steal of the third. This is Kirk Cousins' production level 2.0 coming in the third or fourth round as a steal.
He's a quarterback, man. I mean, he's a quarterback who's got a big stature and a big, even bigger recruiting profile that had everybody talking about him because he's supposed to be the leader, taking the next step on maybe the number one team in the country. It was a great story. Obviously, it didn't work, but he's still there, right? And I think people love possibilities and projections and can he do something we haven't seen?
Yeah,
that kind of thing. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. This is just the NFL Combine, for God's sakes, right?
I think one of the things that has tweaked it in Allar's favor or tweaked the hype up a little bit is that this is a pretty bad class for quarterbacks. It's not a deep class for quarterback. I mean, people are talking about this North Dakota State guy and Ty Simpson. People, as I predicted, people are falling in love with Ty Simpson, and that's a little bit of it. I mean, people talked a lot about this Nussmeier from LSU. Well, you don't hear much about him anymore. The guy from Clemson, it was 6 months ago was supposed to be elite. He's tapered off. The NFL is going to fall in love with some quarterbacks that are draft eligible every year, and Allar is falling into that the breach, I guess, a little bit.
We're going to talk more NFL Combine. I don't know if we're going to fall in love with our guest, but we all know him as a former Penn State beat reporter. That one didn't go over well. Not a good segue.
Fall in love. Come on.
The wit is not okay.
He's a good guy, all around good guy, former Penn State beat reporter. We bring him on the program now. Black and Gold Nation reporter, former Penn State beat reporter, mind you, Andrew Clay from WTAJ TV in Altoona. Andrew, thanks a lot for being here.
Hey, thanks, guys. I'm happy to be on. Happy to talk some gridiron.
We just got done talking about the hype that Drew Allar is getting coming out of Indy. It seems like this is a kind of a familiar pattern regarding quarterback hype from Penn State coming out of the Combine that we've seen in past years, especially on.
Who are you talking about? Name names.
We're not naming names. People know who we're talking about, but specifically under James Franklin, Penn State guys have done well at the Combine. I know James Franklin is no longer at Penn State, but it seems the book on it, as a lot of people are saying, there was no wide receiver help for Drew Allar. He wasn't coached right. We've had Christian Hackenberg on this program say that nobody really taught him to read the middle third of the field to go vertical. Is this hype for real? You were out there, or is this just engagement farming?
Well, let me start by saying this. Anyone who has been around me and listening to any microphone put in my front of face, talking about Drew Allar, knows I said and believed he would go to the Combine and look good. And look, that's no surprise to any of you guys. You guys sat around and watched Drew at practice week in and week out, and you know against air, Drew Allar is quite elite. You know he has the strong arm. You know he's pretty accurate in practice, and you didn't expect him to go out and be bad in Indy, and he wasn't. He has all the measurables. He's big. A little shocked on how big Fernando Mendoza measured up next to Drew Allar, because I thought Allar would be definitively the biggest quarterback, and Mendoza really is pretty much on par with that. But Allar was always going to go and throw with a cannon. I think the wide receiver talk is interesting because, some of these guys have actually transitioned away from Happy Valley and been really good receivers, like Trey Wallace, for example. But I do think the one point that you mentioned, and it's the one point I've really been chewing on for the last couple of days, has been the coaching. And we hear all the time about how terrible Drew's footwork is, and the unorthodox footwork was on full display at the Combine, and it was all the commentators really could talk about. But instead of calling it bad footwork, I'm calling it weird footwork now, because it's very clear, and listening and reading a lot of what I've read, it's very clear that's what was coached into him. It's not that he was out there inconsistently using his feet and not being able to use his feet improperly. He's just out there doing what he was taught to do. It just happens to look different than what we're used to. So I'm no longer saying he has bad footwork. The term I'm using is he has weird footwork. So maybe I'm parsing hairs there, but to circle back to your point, no, I don't think this is necessarily just talking points. I think Drew was always going to go to the combine and always going to shine.
Okay, bad footwork or weird footwork.
Unorthodox footwork.
Unorthodox footwork. Thank you for parsing the language precisely, Andrew. He has a personal quarterback coach, Brad Mandler from Ohio, who is an advocate of mechanics that are a little bit different than the traditional mechanics. I don't think they're wrong. He's teaching him it's more of a rotary, come from the side thing, which look at Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there are a lot of great. So anyway, my question is, do you think that the footwork piece of it is something he got from Mandler or something that he got from the Penn State coaches?
I definitely think it's something that came from his quarterback coach. He's been with him, I think, since he was a sophomore in high school. I definitely think that's where a lot of this comes from. And look, we heard James Franklin talk all the time about trying to be in lockstep with his quarterback coach and allowing his quarterback coach to keep working. I don't think this weird unorthodox footwork is anything we've seen out of past Penn State quarterbacks. You also saw a fair different changing of offensive coaches for Drew Allar while he was there. So to think that really the only consistent person on that offense that might have taught Drew Allar that footwork would have been James Franklin himself. And we know that's not what was happening. So I do think that comes from his high school days. And I remember watching his tape. I remember watching Drew coming out of high school and watching that tape. And my concern was, man, this guy is very raw. He is way better off platform than he is in the pocket. And I had general concerns about how he would develop as a true pocket quarterback. And all of those things remain. Off platform, though, I maintain Drew Allar is one of one in his class off platform.
Including
Andrew.
Let me hop in. So I have always loved Drew Allar off platform, but I can't get one play out of my mind. And maybe you guys, and I don't think a lot of people saw the play the way I did, because I only saw it on replay. The touchdown pass at the end of the Big Ten championship against Oregon to Trey Wallace in the end zone, where he just threaded the smallest of needles between, I think there was an underneath defender and two defenders converging on Trey Wallace. Trey Wallace hung onto the ball. He caught it. Touchdown. Great moment, right? Drew Allar threw that ball with neither foot on the ground. I didn't notice that until I went back and rewatched the film that I had shot from the field level. And I realized that was a jump throw, like a Derek Jeter kind of backhand shortstop kind of play. And to me, that is one play that I have never been able to get out of my head. And when I think of Drew Allar throwing off platform, it is that play over and over again. It's also the needles he threaded late in that USC game, when he was just doing everything he could to keep plays alive and throw the ball downfield because they were trying to come back. Those are the things to me that make Drew Allar's off-platform performance really second to none.
Yeah, Drew Allar, I think, good when he's not thinking as much and you can unlock that ability. It's just can an NFL team unlock it? I don't know the answer to that, but.
Well, I think there are some options. And one, to me, I don't know if the off-platform thing is the thinking part of his game, or does that go to the footwork? Because off-platform footwork isn't a whole lot different quarterback to quarterback. When you're running and throwing the ball, everyone kind of runs and throws the ball the same way. And Drew Allar was a baseball player. So a lot of that off-platform footwork is based on him growing up as a baseball player. I think probably all of us at one point played baseball. And everyone kind of catches the ball, you field the ball, you're running, you're throwing it, and it's all kind of the same for everybody. There's not a whole lot of variance there. And I think that's what really makes his footwork maybe, or makes him better in that, is because that pocket footwork that's kind of unorthodox doesn't affect him because he's out of the pocket, out of the move. Now, who can change him? I think there is one coach. There are two coaches right now in the NFL. Three. I'm going to go with three. There are three coaches I would love to see Drew Allar work with. Sean McVay.
Oh, I was going to ask
Mike McCarthy, right? Well, I'm not young and I'm not old enough to truly remember the talk about Aaron Rodgers in great detail, but we all know what Aaron Rodgers was talked about coming out of Cal and the inconsistencies and the mechanic issues he had coming out of college. Now, I know Mike McCarthy didn't draft Aaron Rodgers, but he was there for year 2 and beyond, right? And Aaron Rodgers became a much, much, much better passer, and his mechanics are unorthodox a little bit, but he became one of the most talented passers of a football that the league has ever seen. And so I do think McCarthy's one of those coaches, and I know he's never going to end up in Tennessee. But I really like Brian Dable as a guy who can work with quarterbacks, because we also know Josh Allen was an inaccurate passer coming out of college, and he was able to fix a lot of those issues. And Allar obviously gets a lot of comps to Josh Allen because of the build and the mobility and the arm strength.
So, go ahead, Frank. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to ask Andrew, who do you what Penn State player impressed you the most overall, interview-wise, performance-wise, and maybe helped themselves the most in your eyes out there?
Zane. I thought Zane Durant was really impressive talking to him. I thought his drills were really, really crisp, really, really sharp. He ran the fastest 40 of any interior defensive lineman. I think the big question about Zane right now is how does he fit into the NFL? Is he really Aaron Donald motor kind of guy? Because that's how he's going to get compared, because guys at 6'1", 280 pounds, 290 pounds, they don't usually have super productive careers. And a lot of scouts believe he needs a niche kind of defense where he's super mobile and he's stunting and he's getting off blocks and there's a lot of slants and stunts and spins and stuff. They see that to be his strength because bull rushing and all of that stuff isn't his strength. But I thought he went out and was just super, super crisp, super sharp on his drills, had a really impressive 40 time, and he spoke really well. And I think that's certainly always a benefit. I also think Deni Dennis Sutton, but we knew that. We've known Deni Dennis Sutton was going to test off the charts at the combine the day he came onto campus. I said for the longest time, he was one of the most intimidating players just from a physical build and stature size that Penn State had. And I don't think he disappointed either.
Andrew, can you kind of describe the whole, like we say it on here, like we love talking to certain guys. He's a good talker, which in our language means he's not giving like the book coaching staff quotes and things like that. But out at the combine, it's kind of a whole new animal. Some of these guys are on podiums. Some of these guys are sitting on, folding chairs in the corner, and they're getting ridiculous questions thrown to them by people they've never seen, they don't recognize, things being pulled out of their past about certain plays maybe they made in high school. I remember I got ripped by an NFL guy on Twitter because I asked Mike Gesicki about the struggles that he had his freshman year and the jugs machine work he was doing after practice. That wasn't a relevant question, but Mike Gesicki playing volleyball in high school was a relevant question to some NFL writers. So can you kind of just describe that entire scene for these guys?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think the days of the chairs are kind of gone. What we saw this year, and it was a little bit of a new format, was everyone had a podium. There were some low podiums that had 2 people to a podium, and they weren't up on risers, but there were at all times for about 6 hours, 5 to 6 hours of the day, were 8 high-rise podiums, and then I think 4 low podiums. And you're right. And they're getting a lot of weird questions. I mean, Drew Allar, I'm telling you, 50% of the questions asked to Drew Allar were about growing up in Cleveland, rooting for the Cleveland Browns. There was a woman going around asking all the players what their first jersey was. And I think Drew Allar's was Joe Thomas, if I remember correctly. But yeah, there's a lot of weird situations. And, you mentioned about, you don't know some of these guys. Deni Dennis Sutton, I bet you can guess what name he was called about a dozen times. He was called Danny
Danny,
Over-
like we do at Penn State, or somewhere else, maybe.
Over and over and over again, he was called Danny Dennis Sutton. And he corrected every single person. And he was actually getting a little annoyed. There was some clear annoyance. And it's so funny because Riley Holsting and I, who were both out there, we had the conversation about how interesting it was is that Deny did not like having his name mispronounced. Zachy Wheatley or Zachy Wheatley, I'm still not sure which one it is. He just brushed it right off. He didn't flinch every time he was given a different name for Zachy. Deny, he did not like it. It was an interesting juxtaposition, but yeah, you've got guys who have never met you. You've got a lot of team beat reporters trying to talk to every guy that you might know. Josh Reed, you guys all know Josh Reed from his former days governing the Penn State beat. He was there working for Buffalo. He was in on every wide receiver interview. I believe that was at the combine because Buffalo was looking for a wide receiver, maybe less so now that they got they got Moore. But yeah, it's different. It's different. It's not what they're used to in college when it's the same 10 faces over and over again. This was different for them for sure.
One of the things that we've heard a lot the last couple years, Andrew, is that the combine itself is not as big a deal as it used to be. Teams aren't sending as large a contingent. A lot of the information that they can get virtually, or they can get without leaving the office, etc. Do you get a sense of that being there?
A little bit. There were certainly coaches that aren't really there. A great example is, like Mike McCarthy, when he was with Dallas in his last season, he showed up for the first day to do an interview and left. He didn't do any formal interviews at the combine this time, though he was more present with drills and stuff. And this is his first year with the team, so that's to be expected. But yeah, I think there's a lot less interest in it. And honestly, at this point, I mean, you guys all saw the Florio Schefter back and forth on social media. They can't even agree on whether or not the computer laser timed 40-yard dashes are accurate because apparently someone with a stopwatch thinks they know better than computers. Yeah. So, I think there is. I think the one thing, though, that I think is still really relevant with the NFL Combine is that the fan effect. Right. And I will always go back to what we saw Zach Wilson do. And I know that was a year without combine drills. But in 2021, when everyone just did pro days because of COVID, Zach Wilson had that one pro day throw. And all social media could do was talk about that for like a month. It was just one throw, right? And so I still think there is this part of social media pressure that fans get attached to players. And I think every GM, every head coach, everyone would tell you that doesn't matter. None of that matters. Fan pressure, all irrelevant. I don't buy it for a second. You can't not hear your fan base clamoring for something and completely ignore it and think and just think it goes away. It just doesn't happen like that. There is some pressure there. And so I do think when guys go out, they can raise their stock by having great performances and getting fans talk about it. To me, it's a far less of an impact based on what their actual numbers are, as opposed to the way fans talk about them. I think that peer pressure that our moms all warned us about, I think that shows up a little bit coming out of the combine.
You know what's funny about what you just said? A lot of NFL fans talked about Zach Wilson's mom longer than they actually talked about Zach Wilson's NFL career. Because he was a big hit on the night of the draft. So I'm not going to dive deep into that. There's a whole other situation with Zach Wilson, but we can move on. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Is Zach Wilson the next reclamation project?
No, that's Johnny.
I don't know.
That's Johnny Manziel.
How many Jets quarterbacks we've already reclaimed 2 Jets quarterbacks? I feel like Zach Wilson's next.
Yeah, that one's not happening. Sam Darnold was a good quarterback to begin with. So
we reclaimed Geno.
And Geno could always throw a deep ball. So
I'm just saying, maybe Zach Wilson's the next reclamation project. It's a Jets thing, which means Christian Hackenberg should give it another chance.
With a quarterback whisperer now as the Jets offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Well, we know sleepy Aaron Glenn isn't that guy.
I don't think he was sleeping. I don't think
so either. I actually felt bad for the man.
Yeah, he wasn't sleeping.
I felt bad for the man because all it takes is glancing down for the wrong second, looking at your text messages, reading your notes, even just a moment of like silent meditation. You know, if you just wanted to take a moment to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and all of a sudden the cameras are on you, your eyes are closed for 3 seconds. Oh, the dude is sleeping. He's like, guys, hey, he would have been praying. We have no idea what he was doing. And I feel bad for the man kind of getting caught up in this, he was asleep, because we have no idea what was going through that man's head for those 3 seconds his eyes were closed.
He's a human being.
I'm going to steal one of Frank's questions here. Frank loved the Penn State secondary leading into last year.
Sure.
Wheatley is getting a lot of hype now coming out. I've seen him as a mock second-round draft pick and stuff. So stealing this question from Frank, because Frank loves the DBs at Penn State. How did he handle himself in the interviews, and what was the buzz on the after he worked out for the people that were in the arena and from your people around Pittsburgh? Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people like Zachy Wheatley, and there are definitely Steelers fans that would love to see him in black and gold. I think the one thing that's going to hold Zachy up, and you say second round, and I'm not sure his stature is going to help him a lot in this case. I think he's very undersized. He's a thin build. When you look at some of these other great safeties that have come out of Penn State, like Jaquan Brisker or Tate Brown, they're much thicker, bigger guys. You know, Zachy came to Penn State as a cornerback, and he still looks like a cornerback. He looks like a shorter Joey Porter Jr. Right? These aren't guys. I know Zachy played a lot in the box this year, and he talked about that at the combine, about how he's really grown as a player who can play in the slot and play up in the box as a tackling safety. But at the end of the day, Zachy Wheatley is still 5'11", 180 pounds soaking wet. Like, he's a small, slender guy. He's still a small dude. And I think at that position, it's still really hard to truly make your way. Now, could he find a place that likes him as like a nickel corner kind of thing, where he's kind of a safety in the box, but kind of also not expected to basically maybe be a leading tackler kind of safety? Maybe. I think his build is going to hold him back a little bit. I know he's got a lot of talent, but at the end of the day, the NFL is still full of really big dudes who are strong, fast, and hit hard. And Zachy is just not the guy that do you see him trying to tackle Darnell Washington?
I can't understand why he's getting this. Maybe you could explain just briefly, why is he getting this much hype? I never would have thought of all the Penn State guys that somebody would put him in the second round. What is the deal with this? I
think it's his range and ball skills, I think, go a long way. You know, we watched him, particularly, 2 seasons ago when they went on that college football playoff run. I think 2 of his 3 interceptions that season came in the playoffs. I think one against Boise State, and did he have one? Was the other one against SMU? He had 2 interceptions in that, and I think his ability to just track the ball down. And I'm not saying he's the guy making 100 broken up passes, but he is always a guy that's tracking the ball, whether it's in the air or on the ground. Look at that. What he's got, that 16 tackle game. His pursuit is really a strong characteristic. And I think that's a pursuit of the ball, both in the air and when it's in someone's hands. And I think his range and his quickness and his lateral speed is certainly a plus. Again, I still think his biggest minus is just the fact that he's a small guy. And I think that's always going to hold him back just a little bit at a position that is very much expected to tackle still in the NFL.
And it should be said, he does play bigger than what he is. So
yeah, but that doesn't always work in the NFL.
Yeah. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, and
I could see why he could play maybe to a second round level at times. I can't see myself why an NFL team would use that kind of pick though on him. That's
sure.
my
investment. That's a big investment.
Yeah, it is a big investment. And to be fair, I think this year's draft, I think we are so far from seeing the real picture. We're seeing so much more movement in the NFL over the last 3-4 years in terms of trades and big free agency moves for different positions. And, we've seen blockbuster trades that we didn't used to see before. And I think you're going to see a lot of teams shuffle. And I think it's going to shuffle the draft board heavily. I think you're already looking at a situation where Stephon Diggs has been released and Moore has been traded. Well, now you've got teams who are Chicago's more wide receiver needy, but Buffalo's less. The Patriots were always wide receiver needy. Now they're even more so. So I think that's going to change a lot of dynamics about how teams are moving around in this draft. And I think both the Patriots and the Bears might have already tipped their hand to taking a receiver in the first round because they are now extremely receiver needy, both those clubs. And I think they kind of maybe tipped their hands already. I think you're going to see a lot of these draft boards really shuffle as free agency plays out. I know there's a lot. The usual is you pick the best guy on the board. Yes and no. Teams who have glaring holes, no. If you're lucky enough to pick the best guy on the board, good for you. But I don't think that's as realistic, especially when the lifespan of general managers is shorter and shorter and shorter. And you got to play to win tomorrow, not to see what your team looks like in 3 or 4 years. And
it seems like teams can turn it around faster, too.
They can. They can more than ever. Seattle is the perfect example.
Andrew, last one I got for you. Or, Mike, do you have something?
No, Stephon Diggs. Why? Why'd they get rid of him?
I think it was a cap. A cap thing.
I don't expect Andrew to necessarily be a that's in my brain. Like, what? Why? What?
Well, I feel like all of the off-field stuff takes a toll on every team, right?
The Patriots.
Diggs there was a video of him passing out some sort of pills before the season. Cardi B, his pregnant girlfriend, is very famous and very much at the Super Bowl. There's also video of him seemingly maybe with a mistress at the Super Bowl after the game. Not the Super Bowl. Going back to one of the playoff games, the one they lost. Like, I don't know. Like, he's got so much baggage off the field. He's a walking, talking quote, much like his brother. They say whatever's on their mind, and I think some of that just piles up. And his performance just wasn't at the level of which it needs to be to get away with some of that stuff.
At the price that he was getting as well, or duty coming up. Last question. In your expert opinion, who is the second draft pick coming out of this talented class for Penn State?
Interesting.
Big Vega goes in the first round.
Danny Sutton, right?
Thank you. You know what, Frank? I wasn't going to say it that way, but it's denied, and it's because of his build. He has such a prototypical pass rushing build. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like, I'd love to look up the measurables right now. How does he compare to Myles Garrett from a build size? I know Myles has almost a decade in the NFL on him to really bulk up, but like, I bet their combine numbers are very similar to what their build is. I mean, that's a great comp from a physical stature. Like, look, Myles Garrett is a unicorn a little bit when it comes to his abilities, but Denai's going to, you know how GMs are. They can't help but look at one player and say, ooh, who do we think this player looks like? Sometimes that never pans out, right? Deshaun Jackson has kind of historically been one of one in his ability to hold speed late in his career and track the deep ball. But doesn't keep us from making the John Ross comparisons to Deshaun Jackson because you run a really fancy 4.3 at the NFL Combine. So I think there's certainly going to be GMs that look at him and be like, look at this guy. Look how he lines up with this guy, this guy, this guy. We're going to take a chance on him. We know he plays with a high motor. We know he is effective. Now, I think his skill set lacked this year. I was really disappointed in his lack of production. I really was.
Yeah, it did not roll.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of this. Who teaches this? Who teaches this at Penn State? Every time you pass rush. Who teaches to throw your hands up every time you don't win your pass rush?
That was kind of
holy crap.
And as we've heard the players say, Tony Rojas specifically last week during the meet and greet, the good plays weren't always called for the defense, and guys weren't put in the best position. So
I want to know who teaches the defensive ends to throw their hands up like they're being held every play.
They're holding me. Give me a break. Yeah.
Exactly. Give me a break. I watched it every play. We saw a lot out of Abdul, but I think Abdul had a case a lot of the time. I don't think Denai had a case for the arms in the air every time he pass rushed, like we saw Abdul have 2 seasons ago. It wasn't the same.
The thing with Denai, though, is people in the NFL are bananas about edge rushers, and they see upside. They look at him and see upside. So, yeah, it's understandable.
They see a mountain of a man.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. 6'4"
Huge.
Myles Garrett, 6'5", 275 for Deny, a.k.a. Danny, as they called him in Cleveland.
I did not realize Miles was that slender coming out of college. Miles has definitely bulked up.
Yeah, this is a simple Google search. And Myles Garrett, it should be noted, Chloe Kim, gold medalist. She starts dating a Cleveland Brown, silver medalist in the last Olympics. So,
Way too much dating information on this.
When Myles Garrett got a speeding ticket the other day, I looked at someone and said, he didn't go to Georgia.
Yeah,
okay, that's enough. We're not going down trashing the Cleveland Browns. They're a classy franchise, and you're a Steelers beat reporter. So, yeah.
I didn't trash the Browns. I took a shot at Georgia.
We're just picking on the Browns players right now. Myles Garrett, one of the premier players in the NFL. We're going to end it right there. Andrew Clay from Black and Gold Nation. You can catch him on the Nexstar affiliates throughout the great Keystone State and up into Southern New York, I believe.
We're in Ohio. We're in West Virginia. I mean, come on. We're everywhere.
Steelers Nation knows no bounds, so Black and Gold Nation goes where the fans are. Steelers, by the way, the team that doesn't need cheerleaders to cheer for them. Andrew Clay, thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it.
They used to have cheerleaders back in the day. You should Google that.
I thought that was just their press row for all the hometown beat reporters.
Wow. Well, it's still cheerleaders. Come on.
Andrew, thanks a lot for stopping by.
Andrew.
Awesome, man.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Kind of an all-encompassing talk right there from Andrew Clay. I mean, he's taking us around the NFL. I thought we were just going to focus on some Penn State guys, but the knowledge base very deep with Mr. Clay of Black and Gold Nation.
Yeah, it amazes me how the NFL manages to stay in the news 12 months out of the year, and it amazes me how closely people follow that sport. It's one of the most popular forms of entertainment in human history, as we all know. Every year of the 30 most watched television events, 28 or 29 of them are NFL related, and it's crazy.
We went from watching awesome hockey games and Olympics, Frank, of world-class athletes in every single discipline, ski mountaineering and things that are like freakish, to watching everybody freak out over young men running 40 yards in a straight line.
But football is that's what the nation loves, right? And it's with college. Look at recruiting. Look how people follow recruiting as if it's another sport, another season, and that helps satisfy when there's no games. I'm just convinced people would watch football if they played all year round. It wouldn't matter. But thank God they don't, because 12 games of a regular season is enough by far for us. There's only so many chicken fingers and bad Caesar salad you can eat in one fall. Correct, Michael?
It always goes to the food with Bodani. Always goes to the food.
Bodani's going down the Ross Tucker path of show me the spread in the press box.
That's why I got to go to tailgates like yours anymore. I can't look at another chicken finger.
No, that is impressive. But here's just one little thing about this, though. Penn State's pro day is coming up. What are any of these guys, particularly these guys that were at the combine, what are they going to do at pro day? We've heard that Allar is going to do nothing. Is that right? What's going to happen?
Possible. I'm glad that I will be hopefully in a car driving to Cleveland for the NCAA wrestling championships, because pro day, I'm not a huge fan of covering.
Pro day sucks from a coverage standpoint. It sucks.
I'm interested for how Matt Campbell's going to handle it, because for the 1 year I covered it under Bill O'Brien, it was fantastic. Even the first year of James Franklin, it was fantastic.
You described your experience as fantastic.
You were able to get up close and personal and see these guys. Then we became the Zapruder film in year 2 under James Franklin, where we were so far away.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you need a binoculars. Who's down there at the other end?
Why that changed? I wonder why that changed.
My favorite pro day moment of all time is Drew Hartlob just tearing up the 40 and James Franklin going wild about it.
I played golf with Drew after that, by the way.
You've not recently though.
No. Like after that happened, like in a celebrity golf tournament, I don't know why I was there.
Wait, you and Drew Hartlob were in a celebrity golf tournament?
Yeah, he was a celebrity and I was a celebrity. My group, Lyft, got the raw end of the deal. I mean, we had fun. We dropped a lot of cans after the tournament.
Well, it goes without saying that you were a celebrity.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of fun. It was at Hanover Country Club. A lot of fun. So
By the way, Joe Paterno didn't even let us in the building for Pro Day.
correct.
We had to
Outside.
stand outside and wait for guys to come out.
I go
There
back
was-
to my
yeah.
fantastic comment, Frank.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay. I like the way Joe handled things sometimes. You know, there was a little less availabilities at times, and it wasn't always a bad thing.
It wasn't always a bad thing.
But the best, okay, when Joe was coach, the best media availability was Lift for Life, which has become a non-existent thing because under Joe would not be around during Lift for Life. We would have full reign of interviewing guys for hours. It was unbelievable. We've never had an experience ever like it with Penn State football players since or again. So
Even though none of the coaches go to Live for Life.
yeah, it was great. Bradley used to go because a couple of the coaches used to stand. Yeah, they used to like stand there and just like watch the guys and like have fun. And then I remember Michael Robinson getting like made fun of by one of the coaches that he was like struggling on like the Mountie thing and like the calves were like on fire and stuff. I mean, it was great. I mean, it was awesome. Live for Life was an event for the fans. It was awesome for the media. It was awesome. Yeah. And it's not even an event now where it's you know that kind of somebody should talk about
that anymore. I'm always gonna go to Pro Day just because it's information.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. You got to go if you can.
Yeah, I'll go, but it's not great.
Closing thoughts. Do we got to talk about anything? Speaking of media availability, I want to find out from. I want to do a thing over the summer, and this is just spitballing here for people. I want to bring on a bunch of beat guys and talk about their different interactions with Joe and getting thrown out of practice, whether it was at the Capital One Bowl game in 2002, like walking in and like things that like happened where they would just have interactions with Joe and tell some stories, you know, maybe talk to Rich Scarcella, Mark Bredin, who's been around forever. Mark Bredin, public enemy #1 in the state of Iowa for the Rocco Beck tweet right now.
How about that?
So, yeah, got to talk.
Yeah, that's good. That's good because Joe was Joe was a source of storytelling. He was he prompted that, and he was a unique character, no question about it.
Awesome. Closing thoughts, guys. Anything?
No, it's I'm glad the weather's getting warm.
Okay, that's a tremendous.
I'm glad the weather's getting warm, and we got a long way to go until Penn State football gets serious. But spring practice is about to start, and it's going to start. The whole machinery is going to start cranking up again.
Exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last thing is I still can't. This is great because Penn State has a quarter of another team as part of their team. And these guys from Iowa State, I'm fascinated to see how they meld into this picture here, or this roster. And they seem like characters in good ways and great talkers. So I am looking forward to getting to know those guys better.
It's almost like there's a sociological element to it that is going to play out. Yeah.
I'm interested to see how it actually works come the football field. And I don't know, we're not going to get a chance to really gauge a whole lot in the spring. A lot of these guys won't even play. But yes, how does this work? I mean, never seen anything like it at Penn State. We get to be a part of it. So one step at a time.
Excellent closing thought. Mike, can we give Frank a round of applause for that?
How many times have I given Frank a round of applause?
We just almost jumped the shark here like Fonzie when Mike goes, well, the weather's getting warm.
Whoa.
For this podcast, so.
Don't even. Now I'm a little miffed with that comparison.
Oh, Henry Winkler, dude. Tell me Henry Winkler is not one of the coolest guys on the planet.
Yeah,
for his
tell me that the actual Jump the Shark episode isn't the stupidest episode of any TV show in the history of the world.
You mean you never wore a leather jacket and shorts at the same time doing anything?
No.
Okay.
No, I did not. No, I did not.
I can picture this, though.
Obviously, Mike is not held hostage by any significant other watching Hallmark Christmas movies or anything else like that, like I am. So
Yeah, my wife has an eclectic case. And so.
I'll take Fonzie jumping a shark any day over some of those movies. Henry Winkler is in, I think, The Most Wonderful Time of the Year, a Hallmark movie. So
It all fits together.
Oh, God.
Together. All right, that does
way
it.
to tie it up in a bow.
If you stuck around this long, you are better than all of us. These final 3 minutes, it's getting warm out. Closing thoughts.
That's a good point.
We'll see you after Big Ten Wrestling Championships as we preview the NCAA, and we'll talk some hockey here as they get going as well. I want to give you a heads up if you don't know it. Penn State women are hosting the Frozen Four. Have a good one, everyone. Take care.